Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. India and the United States have solidified their defense partnership with a 10-year defense framework. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth inked the deal on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Malaysia. India's defense minister has termed the deal a signal of India's growing strategic convergence. Meanwhile, Hegseth said that ties with New Delhi have never been stronger. Top government sources have told CNBC-TV18 that this indicates progress in the defense partnership, which in turn shows that a trade deal may be around the corner. So what does this mean for both nations? Enhanced defense coordination, information sharing, technology cooperation. The agreement will also allow India and the US to co-produce, co-develop military infrastructure also in underwater domains. We're also likely to see more military exercises between India and the US as a result. When it comes to current acquisitions from the US, India is in talks with America to acquire P-8I military aircraft. Also in talks to acquire Javelin anti-tank missiles from US and Excalibur ammunition. Both Javelin and Excalibur ammunition orders are part of India's emergency procurements to replenish stocks after Operation Sindoor. So how will India's arsenal benefit from this framework? Let's listen in to our guests now. We're joined by former Indian diplomat Rakesh Sood and former Deputy Chief of Integrated Defence Staff, Lieutenant General Anil Ahuja. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Ambassador Rakesh Sood, what's your view? Is this a positive for the trade negotiations as well? We managed to renew the Defence Framework Agreement, which is a 10-year pact, despite the fact that we've had very difficult trade negotiations. Does this show that a trade deal is on the horizon and we may finally reach a landing zone soon?
I think that the trade deal, I would consider the trade deal done when it is both sides announce that it is ready for signature, because nothing is completed till it is actually completed and is ready for signature. The devil is always in the details. Insofar as the defense framework is concerned, look, this was signed for the first time in 2005. It was then renewed in 2015. And now it has been renewed again. There is no denying the fact that during this period, the US has emerged as a major defense partner from literally zero. We today have defense equipment purchases that are close to $25 billion, if not more. US is today the country with which we have the largest number of joint exercises of all three services, of combined services, and things like that. So therefore, the defense agreement is a reflection of growing defense cooperation, but that is, and it began actually, the first defense cooperation agreement was actually signed in 1995, after we had a defense planning group set up at the defense secretary level, a defense technology group set up at the level of the secretary DRDO, and service-to-service steering groups set up to begin first talking to each other and planning on joint exercises. So from there to now has been a long walk, as it were. And but then defense relationships are relationships that don't go up and down as quickly as something like trade deals. I mean, trade deals, as we have seen particularly during the Trump years, have had a tendency of fluctuating very widely because of the manner in which he uses tariffs.
Okay, General Ahuja, to ask you now. Right. I'm going to come back to you, sir. But General Ahuja, if I were to ask you, what real improvements are we expecting or you really hope for? Because, yes, our defense partnership, as Ambassador Sood said, has been growing since 2005. Since 2014, we've seen a series of enabling defense agreements between India and US, which have uplifted the partnership. But what's really missing? What more needs to be done? And does this new, renewed framework address that?
Thank you, Parikshit. And Ambassador Sood has just recapitulated how we started in 1995, and successively 10 years lapse, we have moved forward. So, one, it is a continuation. Two, It is a consolidation of last 10 years, where we've achieved, where the momentum has been exceptionally strong, if I may say, that it was during the period 2015 till now, that is between these last two framework agreements, that we went in for all these LEMOA, COMCASA, BECA, Industrial Security Annex, STA1, Major Defense Partner. And over these four administrations, what has happened is that defense, in any case, defense is a field in which the cooperation comes under a lot many verticals. It's mill to mill cooperation, it's technology cooperation, it's trade cooperation, and it's defense industry cooperation. So what we've done is that during this period, we saw, and particularly during the last Biden administration, that besides the mill to mill cooperation, we moved along into a defense industrial roadmap, which was concluded in June 2023 during the then defense US Secretary of Defense visit. We have gone in a big way into technology cooperation and technology cooperation beyond defense. We had DTTI, which was in the field of defense per se, but then we went into ISET, which has now been christened as Trust. And under this, very significantly, we've had this IndusX, Impact Challenges, where we've been getting the innovators to come in field of underwater communication, detection of satellites in the space, and various other critical areas. So this framework consolidates what we have achieved so far, and it gives an indication that there are newer areas. Why I say newer areas? You've seen our Yudh Abhyas exercises, the army to army exercises that we have. By far, we focused, the last one we had in September in Alaska, we focused in exercising in high altitude areas on themes of peacekeeping, HADR, counter-terrorist operations. But today, we are moving into cooperation in underwater domain, cooperation in space, cooperation in cyber. So this is what will add new areas of our cooperation and give continuity to this, otherwise an island of continuity amidst the turbulence.
All right, very important points. But let me now also get in Ambassador Sood. Ambassador Sood, how difficult will it be to balance our partnership with Russia? Now, as we speak, we've seen two developments. One, HAL signed a defense MOU with a Russian entity for building civilian aircraft. Now, this was a sanctioned entity. Do you think this was done in order to somehow balance the relationship with Russia, assure them that we want to continue that partnership as well? We're also looking at the Secretary, Department of Defense Production. He's traveling to Russia, and we're playing out some pictures also of the 23rd Working Group meeting of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military Technical Cooperation and Defense Industry held in Moscow on October 29. How do you think we will take the partnership with Russia forward, which is very critical for our defense needs as well?
Well, right now, we are also under sanctions because we are buying Russian oil. We are under sanctions by the United States. So clearly, which is the point I was making earlier, that just because we signed or renewed this 10-year framework agreement doesn't mean that we have turned the page insofar as India-US relationship is concerned. It doesn't mean that tomorrow it clears the way for signing of the new trade agreement or anything like that. Secondly, we must remember that insofar as defense is concerned, we have been wanting to slightly broad base and move away, because during the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on, our military hardware in all the three services was heavily Russia and before Russia, Soviet dependent. So in that sense, we wanted to make it a little more broad-based. To that, the government has also added the slogan of Atmanirbharta and trying to develop our own manufacturing capabilities. So therefore, we are also looking for technology partnerships. We are looking, for example, negotiations with the US company GE on the 414 engine for our combat aircraft, the next generation, the AMCA. We have also, Tata's have moved in and they are now assembling and manufacturing key components of a cargo aircraft for the Air Force, which has been negotiated with Airbus, and that the C295. So at the same time, there have been reports that India is also looking at a fifth generation aircraft. And the aircraft that are supposed to have been offered by the Americans is supposed to be F-35. Trump had put out a message about it a couple of months ago. And the Russians are talking about Su-57. President Putin is likely to visit in December for a bilateral summit. And so we are also exploring the possibilities of what are the key deliverables. So perhaps we need to look at the civilian aircraft deal as part of the Atmanirbharta, as part of the deliverables and so on. After all, our airline sector is sort of poised for a massive growth, really a massive growth.
Right.
And as tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities and runways come into operation and connectivity increases, they can't all be connected by the Airbus 320 or, aircraft like that. So we will have to have turboprop aircraft and so on. So we need to have multiple levels. And I think we need to look at it purely from that point of view of being able to keep more than one ball up in the air. And that's what diplomacy is about.
Right. Absolutely. Let me get in General Ahuja as well. General Ahuja, how real is the threat of sanctions on Russian companies which supply major defense equipment? For example, the supplies of the remaining S-400 equipment and consignments has to take place in 2026. What if the US were to sanction all of that? What kind of a situation would that really create? And why do you think in the case of a civilian aircraft, HAL has inked a MOU with UAC, a Russian aircraft, which is under both US and European sanctions?
See, Parikshit, it was just brought out by my co-panelist that we have diversified our arms acquisitions over a period of time. And it was for the first time since the mid-60s that our defense acquisitions from Russia went below 50%. That is, they range around 36% of our acquisitions now. That happened in 2023. But we are definitely not changing one dependency for another dependency. We have, till the time we become Atmanirbhar, we have defense dependencies, now largely distributed between Russia, between France, Israel, and our own acquisitions, our own indigenization. And the US share by far has remained 11%, 12% or so. Now, so our Russia relationship is there to stay. It has tapered down over, if you look at last about 15 odd years, it has tapered down from about 76% to 58% to 36%. Now, as far as this particular SJ100 inking of this deal is concerned, now USC has been under sanctions right from 2018 onwards. You would know that they were strengthened during the period 2020, 2022. And now this company, United Aircraft Corporation. Now, it's an amalgamation of the companies which have been producing already the TU series of aircraft, the other Antonov series of aircrafts, IL series of aircraft, MiG, Yak, etc., etc. So, to say, and we have done it in the field of civil aircraft, the need has already been highlighted. So the question is, we are calibrating it, we are diversifying our basket, but we know where are the criticalities. And after the CAATSA sanctions were waived, I don't see US going into so much of a restriction on these aspects, because that will really hit the foundation of our relationship. I don't see that happening. It shouldn't happen if the US is prudent in this part.
All right, we've completely run out of time, but I'd like to thank Ambassador Rakesh Sood and Ambassador Ahuja and General Ahuja for joining us in the program, which has been a very interesting discussion on India-US ties. And we really have to see how US actually delivers on these promises, as we've seen with GE engines, engine deliveries for Tejas, deliveries of Apache helicopters. A lot of that has been delayed. And one of the points that Rajnath Singh had made to Pete Hegseth was that please speed up deliveries and meet timelines. Let's see what happens in the months to come. We're taking a short break on Global Eye, but when we return, we will get you a special interview with the India MD of British International Investment on their investment in India's energy sector and key areas of focus in India for the future.